Hi everyone, I am in Jaffrey, New Hampshire at the grave of one of my favorite authors, Willa Cather. And of course, Willa was born in Virginia, moved to Nebraska, Red Cloud, Nebraska, when she was only 8 years old. And she wasn't a huge fan of living in Nebraska, even though she wrote about the prairie in her books. But she lived a lot of other places, and I think she even lived in Pittsburgh, if I'm not mistaken. But she ended up living in New York on Park Avenue, I believe. I might be wrong. But she used to come to Jaffrey, New Hampshire to do her writing. She loved New England. She loved New Hampshire, especially Jaffrey. And she wrote My Antonia here at the Shattuck Inn, which is no longer here anymore. But she had a wish to be buried in Jaffrey, so here she is, right next to her roommate and friend Edith Lewis, who died in 1972. And here is another stone for Cather with a quote from My Antonia. "The truth and charity of her great spirit will live on in the work which is her enduring gift to her country and all its people. That is happiness to be dissolved into something complete and great." So, little note about the date that you see here. Willa Cather had a habit of wanting to be a little younger than she was, and on her gravestone she wanted it put that she was born in 1876. She was actually born in 1873, but she preferred to be 3 years younger than she actually was. She did die on April 24th, 1947. And I have loved Willa Cather ever since I first saw My Antonia when I was in high school, which was a TV movie with Neil Patrick Harris. And then I read the book. I actually was backwards. I watched the movie first, then I read the book. And I have read everything Willa Cather has ever written, with the exception of her poetry. But every book she wrote, many of her short stories, she was definitely a woman who broke barriers. She did not want to be a girl. I think there was a part of her that was a little envious of what the boys were allowed to do. You have to remember, she was brought up in a time when women were basically second-class citizens, but she didn't care about that. She defied convention, and she, at one point, shaved her head and went by the name of Willie. She wanted to be a doctor, but after one of her professors submitted one of her essays, it gave her the confidence to be a writer because everyone loved her writing, and obviously that was her destiny. She won the Pulitzer Prize for her novel One of Ours, which Ernest Hemingway had a problem with because the novel dealt with World War I, and Hemingway had a problem with that because he said a woman can't possibly know what it's like to go to battle, so she has no business writing about it. Well, the joke was on Hemingway because she won her one and only Pulitzer Prize for that World War I novel. So Willa Cather was quite a revolutionary woman, way ahead of her time. And I'm so happy to finally be here and pay my respects to one of my favorite authors, the great Willa Cather.